further delay, I'd like to welcome to the stage today's guest speaker, Mike Schaffer. Again, like I said, he is the current sort of like father of this organization. He puts a lot of work into curating this experience week to week. He sources a lot of amazing, talented presenters, but he's also, more importantly, the founder and CEO of Echo Factory, an advertisement agency, actually, which I think you have a couple of your clients here passing out some products and samples.
Actually, it's people from the office.
Oh, people from the office. Okay, gotcha. So he's gonna be talking about. So Mike is gonna be talking about his success that he's had recently with 3 clients as he helped them grow their organization, their business to $250 million in growth cumulatively. So I'm really excited to hear what he has to say. Please warm welcome for Mike Schaffer.
Thanks, everybody. As Mike said, I curate a lot of the speakers, so naturally, I brought myself up here. This is actually my second time speaking. 4 years ago, I spoke here, and it was the day that I opened my office in Pasadena. I moved here and opened, and I just so happened to speak that day. So a year before that, I decided to move to Pasadena. I lived in Pasadena for a long time, didn't have my business here, and thought, why am I commuting? And why wouldn't I just open my agency in Pasadena? And so I decided to meet the business community. I went online, was like looking, are there any places I can go to just meet some people in the business community? And I happened upon Friday Coffee Meetup. It was a brand new thing. I think only a couple weeks old. Andy had started it. This is a picture from one of the early one of the early meetings. This is at Copa Vida. So we used to bounce around from coffee shop to coffee shop. That's where the name came from. And it started with, I think 10 or 12 or 15 people. We would just sit around a table and talk, and it's turned into this. And I'm not sure at what point they handed me the keys and said, here, Mike, you do this. But the reason it's grown into the size that it has and the success that it's had and the reputation is there's a ton of people behind the scenes. I get a lot of credit for it. Mike emceeing up here gets a lot of credit for it. Andy gets a lot of credit for starting this. But Chuck does the video, YouTube. Mike does the podcast. John's here every week. We have probably about 10 volunteers that have been coming to this every single week for 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, and it's pretty rare. So we do have a really strong community here, and I'm very appreciative of it. And I'm definitely able to get behind the mission of getting the innovation that happens in Pasadena to the public. So this is me, 2002. I was a college student going to Mount SAC. I didn't like college. Actually, it wasn't that I didn't like it. College didn't like me. At the time, it wasn't very cool, but I ended up dropping out because I just couldn't do it. And so instead I started a business as an advertising photographer. That's what I was passionate about. It's what I love to do. I never told anybody. Now I can say, oh yeah, I dropped out of college and had a startup, and yeah, that was cool. But it's only been until fairly recently that I even admit that. And what I ended up doing is I'd worked for these really great clients, and they would love the work I was doing. They'd love the collaboration that was happening. And they would ask me, hey, I love what you did with the photos. Can you also do some advertising for me? Can you also do a brochure? Can you build a website for me? And being more of an entrepreneurial mind, I would just say yes. Yeah, I'll figure it out. Yep, I can do that. I gotcha. And for a couple years, we did that. And then I started hiring a couple people and figured, oh, wow, I actually like the advertising part of this and the marketing more than I like the photography. One of the reasons is because I would do this really cool creative photography that I just thought was amazing, and then it would go to an ad agency. That was most of my clients. And then I'd see the stuff come back, and I would be so disappointed because I'd say the ad agency ruined it. Like, I had this really good creative work, and they just totally ruined it, and it's not what I imagined. So I thought, I'm doing this marketing work anyway. I'll start an agency, and I'll show these agencies how to do it better. And so I started Echo Factory. That was in 2008. So this February, we celebrated 10 years. Thank you. So this is me. When we were getting my bio picture for the presentation, the office had a Photoshop contest. And this one obviously wasn't photoshopped, but one of the things that I learned doing marketing and advertising for a number of years is you always want to attach yourself to something bigger than yourself. So if you have a startup, even if you're a successful company, you want to try and tag yourself to something bigger. So what's better than astronauts, pizza, and cats? Not much, actually. So I had a couple clients on the photography side that kept asking to have me do their advertising work, and I said yes. And I've been able to work with some really amazing companies. If you can see this in the back, some of the biggest brands in the world like GE, some very large local companies like Cedars-Sinai. Maglite's been a client of mine for the last 10 years. Tabasco we're working with, Goodwill, Fujifilm, UCLA. We work with some really great brands. And every single one of these brands and every single brand that's just a startup or just an early company asks me the same thing. Have you done this before? I literally got a call yesterday. Somebody said, I'm looking at all your work. I like what you do, but have you ever helped grow a business that makes protein powder that's for vegans? And I'm going, well, it's the same marketing foundations. How many people here are in marketing? Raise your hand. So this presentation, I'm actually going to be speaking to the choir, to you guys. I don't think you're going to actually learn anything new. What I'm hoping you'll do is get a new perspective on the client side, the agency side, a vendor side, and just get a new perspective. Marketing's got so many different tactics. There's websites and advertising and press releases and social media, influencer marketing, pay-per-clicks. There's radio, television. There's a lot of tactics. And what's happened in the last 10 years, 15 years is there's been a lot of specializations, both in type of tactics and in the types of clients. And what I've done with Echo Factory is try to make a full service agency that really focuses on the growth of a company, no matter what the type of company, and figure out the tactics that are specific for them. So today, I want to talk about 3 clients and the first $250 million that we helped them grow. What I mean by this is these are 3 clients that we've worked with for a number of years. They are early companies with the agency. These are companies that, the way I measure the $250 million is that's from the time we started working with them till the time of acquisition. And I'm going to talk about 3 clients. 2 of them went through an acquisition, and 1 of them is growing with acquisition. So they're acquiring competitors or vendors. And so I want to talk about that. And so this is not revenue growth. This is not, hey, we ran this really cool creative thing and saw a spike. This is years of hard work. And so I just want to tell a couple stories. And then if you had a chance to taste Joe Froyo over here, this is a brand new client. We've been working with them for about 6 or 8 months, and the product just launched, so this is the very first taste test. Would love to get your feedback. We've got some swag over here for you. So I want to talk about the tactics that we use for these 3 clients and then show how we're going to apply it to this. So the first client is called Proponent. When they came to us 10 years ago, they were called Capco Global. They're an aerospace distribution company. The second client is Precision Paragon. They manufacture lighting fixtures, so they're in the hardware manufacturing business. And the third client is Lobos by Interalliance by Yardi. So Precision Paragon has now been rolled up into Hubble. They went through 2 acquisitions. Interalliance was the client that hired us first. We created a product called Lobos, and then they were acquired by Yardi. And Proponent is a standalone company that we started working with as Capco. They've since acquired their biggest competitor recently, which I'll talk about, and we did a whole name change, and I'll talk about the reasons why. So a little warning here. I didn't do this on my own. My team didn't do this on my own. This was because we were working with good companies that had a good product and were doing good work. The leadership, I actually credit them for the growth that these companies had. And it's really impossible to say, hey, we did this marketing campaign and that caused a huge spike. This is a long-term thing. And while it's impossible to say how much of a percentage we had attributed to that growth, one of the CEOs said 50% of their company's growth could be completely attributed to the work we were doing. I think that's super generous, but I'll take it. So getting into the tactics, marketing helps good companies. It doesn't fix bad ones. That's a lesson that I keep seeing and keep learning. If you take one thing away from this presentation, I want you to take away the fact that the relationship, the long-term relationship between an agency and its client and the client and its agency is what actually made this happen. The agency world's tough. Those of you that have worked in an agency or do work in an agency, you know at any minute you could get fired. They could, for any number of reasons. You could be doing great work, having great success, but tomorrow you could be looking for a job. And so having a client that you trust is absolutely the most important thing that you can have. And on the client side, you don't want an agency that's continually chasing business and once you sign them on, stops paying attention to you. So that's one of the big takeaways is when you're working with clients as a vendor, I consider ourselves a vendor. Our clients many times call us partners, which I love, but we don't actually have a stake in these companies, or I probably would be on vacation right now. So that's the one takeaway I'd really like you guys to get from this. So the first thing is creating the foundation, especially with all the influencer marketing and social media and the change in ad technology. It's really easy to think about tactics first, but you really need to think about the foundation first before you do the tactics. And what I mean by that is create a well-developed strategy and create a strong brand identity. If you can do this first, your likelihood of success increases immeasurably. So with a well-developed strategy, I'll talk about P2, the lighting manufacturing company. So they were actually our very first client when I opened the agency. The CEO had hired me as a photographer to go shoot some light fixtures out that they had just installed. And he liked me and said, hey, I'm trying to do some marketing. So he hired us, we built a website for him, we rebranded him. Shortly after, they were Precision Fluorescents. Shortly after, we rebranded them to Precision Paragon because they acquired Paragon Lighting. And the one thing that we always thought is, hey, we could do cool stuff. You guys have these really cool fixtures. We can do this really creative work. So they made these LED fixtures. They have these occupancy sensors so they can turn on and off with motion. It just had this really cool technology in it. And so we would focus heavy on that, and our creative would reflect that. So one of the early ads we came out with was the evolution of light. So it goes from campfire to candle to incandescent to fluorescent to now this LED that P2 has. And while this is a great message, it's not anything specific to them. It doesn't give you the benefit of why their fixture. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of light fixtures that come out. And so about 6 months into the relationship, we realized that we were in a meeting, we realized that we didn't actually even understand their business or their sales model. We just knew that they had cool lights, and we were excited about it and trying to do creative work. And so what we did is we actually learned that they thought of themselves more as a customer service business than an innovation company. Well, even though they had great innovative products, they really cared a lot about their customer service, and that's all they cared about. And so then we started changing the direction and said, hey, you've got this new lighting fixture, we're very low maintenance. So that works really well. It's a nice play on words for the product, the innovation, but also the company itself. And so we do campaigns all about the customer service. And by the way, we have the most innovative product that's out there. And that worked really well. And since then, they've gone through a couple of acquisitions and have been rolled up into Hubble. And so if we didn't have that strategy, we never would have headed in this direction. And I don't think they would have been as successful because the marketing and advertising didn't tie in with their messaging. The second thing is the strong brand identity. So the aerospace company, so they started working with us as Capco Global. They acquired a few businesses, and 10 years later, just actually last year, they acquired their biggest competitor, and so now they're the largest aerospace distribution privately owned company in the world. And so early on, because they acquired their largest competitor, they were fighting for names. Should they be called Capco? Should they be called Avio Deepen? And so what the CEO decided is, look, we want to be different. We want to really stand out. Let's come up with a new name. Let's come up with a new brand, and let's just start over fresh and new beginnings as a one team. And so early on, we said, okay, here's what your competitors look like. Some of these companies you may have heard of, some of them you may not have, like Honeywell and Raytheon, I'm sure you've heard of. Airbus, I'm sure you've heard of. Zodiac Aerospace, maybe not. But one thing in common is everything's red or blue. Those are the power colors. Aerospace is red or blue. And so what we did is we created a brand called Proponent and said, you're orange and gray. Proponent, we use like soft lettering. And really, they wanted to be customer-centric. They've got all these great parts, but the idea is to stand out from their competitors. And so as we're creating all the tactics, like websites and email campaigns and trade show materials and just everything that goes into a rollout for both a brand launch, rebrand, and ongoing marketing, everything was about being your partner in aerospace distribution and standing out. And so we use these bright colors, bright, like harsh angles to really stand out. And even when you get into social media, all the messaging is around, this is a photo shoot we did in China at their facility there. So on Twitter, we say proponent is more than a name, it's our mission, see what's possible with the proponent on your side. And so everything we do is based around, you now have a proponent on your side. They're not just an aerospace company that's large and has all the products, they're somebody that will work with you. And then when we start getting into email blasts and print ads and digital ads and social media, we say listening, the most innovative service we offer. And so that's really what we're pushing for here with this company. And if we didn't understand the CEO's vision and the whole company's vision, it would be a lot more difficult for us to have something that separates them. The next thing that we think works and it has helped these companies achieve a lot of growth is setting up a clear measure of success. If you don't know what a win looks like, then it's really hard to win. And so Enteralliance is a technology company. When we started working with them, they were a custom software solution for air conditionings. So they would kind of like Nest, very similar to Nest, but it's a software technology inside the platform. And really early on, they said, yeah, create a logo for us, create a website, create some ads, do some marketing for us. And what we did is we sat down and figured out what their vision was, and their vision was to productize a custom service. And so we created this box called Lobos. This never actually got produced and is not an actual thing, but by creating this, it gave the internal team and the external customers an idea that, hey, we're selling a product. We're not custom creating something for you. There's an actual product that's gonna be delivered, and it's a technology. And so we said, look, this is a very smart little box. It did come in a box, it just didn't look like this. But early on, we were able to say, just everybody keep in mind that you're selling a product now, and it really changed the way everybody was thinking about them. And so, yes, we created websites, we created their dashboards for the platform, so you could see how much energy is being used. This is in Manhattan, based on the temperature outside, and it's all very technical and interesting, but moving from that custom solution to a productization was the big goal. And then beyond that, we did something that I didn't realize was revolutionary at the time, but what they would have to do for their customers, so they would work with skyscrapers. So they did a lot in New York, they did a lot in Chicago, and they would have to send an engineer to these buildings and custom quote, even though it's productized, custom quote every single installation. These are $200,000 or $300,000 products. And so we were able to just take the data from all their proposals and create a calculator. This is a few years ago when these weren't quite as common. And you could put in, hey, I've got a data center, it's 750,000 square feet, my zip code here in Pasadena, does your business have variable speed equipment? I have no idea, so you can say I don't know, or yes or no. And so I ran a test, like, oh, if you're in Pasadena and you have a 750,000 square foot data center, you're gonna save between $104,000 and $127,000 on your energy bill. But more importantly, what's the ROI? And so right away, with a click of a button, you can say, hey, a simple payback is gonna be in 1.8 years or 2.7 years, and that really helped the productization and sales cycle. And all the marketing and advertising and doing this really cool creative work is super important, but in the end, you need to be driving sales. The other thing that we learned is you need to succeed, you need to fail, and you need to respond to either one of them. So going back to the lighting manufacturer, they're very customer service based. One day they called us and said, hey, we totally effed up on one of our clients. Can you send them a gift basket? Just put a note in there from us, business card, it would be great. And we decided to do something a little bit better than that. And so we created this box, we said, hey, we're sorry. We went to Michael's, bought a voodoo doll, bought actually I don't know what those are called, a pin doll. Colored it, and then put a tag on it that said, hey, we messed up, we're sorry. Take your anger out on us voodoo style, and when you're done, give us a call and we'll make it up to you properly. And so now that we know they're very customer service oriented, we can start doing very creative things to continue the momentum of their brand. And with this company in particular, I don't have any numbers here because all the three companies that I'm talking about are private, but this is their growth. So this is a 2-year period. And one of the things that's really important is as you're measuring success and failures, you don't want to stop. It gets really easy to, when you see some success, to stop pushing and stop innovating and stop trying new things. But also, if you fail and you're not seeing success, it's easy to stop. So you can see this is about 6 months or so. At this point, they're saying, hey, I don't think what you guys are doing is working. We've been working with you for 6 months. I don't know if there's an actual ROI. I don't know that there's actually a business case for having you guys do this stuff. But they kept with us. We had a great relationship with them. We still, 10 years later, have a great relationship with them. But we kept trying new things, and all of a sudden you get this spike. And everybody always talks about the hockey stick of growth. That hockey stick is total bullshit. We all know it. Everybody knows it. But everybody wants it because it feels like it's just so attainable. What actually does happen is growth like this. And so you have these little spikes, and then you kind of plateau for a while, and then you might have a little spike and a little dip, and then a big spike, and then a big dip. And what normally happens with a client-agency relationship is when you get to about here, they go, hey, we need a new agency. We need somebody else to help us. Whatever these guys are doing isn't working anymore. And if you can have a great relationship that they say, hey guys, and you can be honest and say, whatever you're doing is not working, try something else. Well, then you start trying something else, and now you're back on that growth curve because you're just being agile and trying new things. So the key takeaways are build a strong foundation, establish clear measures for success, measure your success and failures frequently, and then build on those success and failures. And one of the things that's really easy to talk about past client work and the success that they've had, we call them fishing stories, right? Like, yeah, we did an amazing job. In the last 10 years, I've probably worked with 200 companies, 250 companies. So here's 3. While we have a lot of companies with similar success just like this, it's just really easy to talk about the really good ones. So what we did is I've got my team here. So this is a new client in a totally different industry from what I described. This is a consumer packaged goods. It's actually a coffee drink. And we've been working with them for about 6 months. They're a private equity owned company. They hired us to help launch this brand. And so what we did is we're helping launch Joe Froyo. And literally 2 weeks ago, this product came out and is hitting the shelves. This is the very first taste test we're doing. So please, if you guys have a chance afterwards, do a taste test. Let us know what you think. There's a big, long survey for you to fill out. I know it's long, but us marketing folk need that data. Data is important. And what we did is when they came to us, they said, hey, we've got this drink. It's a yogurt-based drink that tastes like coffee, and we're the only company that can do that, and it's got caffeine, probiotics, and protein, and it works really well as a recovery drink. And as we were doing the foundational materials and putting the strategy together, we discovered along with them and said, hey, nobody wants to buy a yogurt drink. It sounds like it tastes disgusting. But what people do like buying is coffee. So why not tag yourself to something bigger than yogurt, which is coffee? People like that drink. So we created the functional cold brew, caffeine, probiotics, and protein. And then we came up with this line, sip, swoon, repeat. During the research, we actually discovered early on that because it's lactose-free, it actually opened up a whole new market for us, both for people here in the US that are lactose intolerant and could never have a drink like a Frappuccino, but it also opened us up into a global market possibility in China and Mexico. And so it just widened the spectrum because we started digging into what's important with this. So we've now launched this bottle. It's 15 grams of protein, 12 ounces of delicious. We've got some samples here. Would love for you guys to try it. So now that we've got the foundation, we've created the branding, they've got a website, and they've got swag over here, and we've got social media, so many Instagram posts running. They're amazing. But it all comes back to this is a healthy alternative to a Frappuccino. And so when we start developing the creative, we do when health freezes over. And everything now ties back to the original message of this is a healthy alternative to a Frappuccino. This is a coffee-based drink. It's got probiotics. It's got a lot of protein. It works really well as a recovery drink. And then for all you social media marketers in there, you have to have a hashtag, right? And so we came with the hashtag #GetToKnowJoe. And so everything is posted from their sales team that's out driving around their branded truck to all the stores to, these guys are gonna ask you to hashtag #GetToKnowJoe. And so now that the foundation is there, we figure out what are the goals. So the goals are move from development to growth phase. So that's where we're at now. So the product has just been developed. They just refined the formula and literally came off the shelves 2 weeks ago. We got it in our office and had a big taste test. We want to establish local distribution. They're in Southern California for a reason. This is a healthy alternative. There's nowhere more healthy than California, Southern California specifically. So become a household name in California is the next step, and then expand into other markets. So we've got these measurable goals. And so local distribution, there's a handful of stores that you can buy this in the Southern California region. Most of them are fitness centers. And so at the end, marketing helps good companies. It doesn't fix bad ones. And I think this company, Joe Froyo, is a really good company, and I'm excited to see where they go. And hopefully when they take off and they hit their first 250 million, you'll be able to say, oh, I remember when Mike talked about that and the things that Echo Factory did to help them. So I guess we'll take questions, and at the end, please take a taste test and fill out a survey. Thanks.
Excellent job, Mr. Schaffer. It's always an honor to witness and be a part of a growth process like this. I mean, Mike Schaffer has been working in his organization with Echo Factory, founder, CEO, for 10 years. And it was at the turn of the Great Recession that he was actually able to create this amazing business. And I just love hearing the organic growth story of how, and don't feel bad about it. I mean, some of the greatest entrepreneurs, Steve Jobs, for example, dropped out of college because he realized his passion wasn't in alignment with the conventional academic trajectory. So dropping out of college and pursuing your passion in photography and then letting that evolve into advertising is really inspirational, because a lot of people don't necessarily want to go to college, just feel like that's the only choice that they have. So I think that's a great story for entrepreneurs to plug into. And it's really just cool to see how some of your more successful clients have evolved with your organization. And I think that's just really inspirational. So thank you so much for sharing that and your perspective and some of the toolkit information that went along with that. So we're going to open up to Q&A now. If you have a question, raise your hand. John will walk around with the mic. Let's save storytelling and comments for offline. Mike will be hanging out with us, obviously, because he's going to be promoting his client. But yes, so if you have a story that you'd like to share, let's save that for offline. Thanks.
Let's start over here.
Great talk, Mike. Expected that. The chart you showed of the growth, that was really compelling to me. Pretty gnarly there for, I guess each bar was maybe a quarter.
It was actually a month.
Oh, a month, okay. Because I was looking at, 4 or 5 down months, I could see, quarters would be tougher. How do you, in that conversation where naturally everybody wants to drop you and every manager wants to say, cut my losses, you kind of start over as a manager with your upper management when you say, we got rid of those people. Let's not talk about them anymore. Let's start with a clean slate. What was that conversation to make people stay with you in that down season?
It wasn't as harsh of a conversation as you might think. One of the benefits that we have with a lot of our clients is we work directly with the CEOs or the senior executive team. And so we started having the conversation here like, holy shit, let's keep doing whatever we're doing. And then when we hit here, we went, hey, how come we're not having another up month? And then here we said, hey, what are you guys doing? And so we were constantly in communication with them. So we didn't get to hear and have an oh shit moment with a client. We got to hear and said, hey, for whatever reason, we saw a little dip. Let's pay attention to that. Let's really dig into the analytics and the data. And this is a number of years ago when data wasn't quite as easy to measure as it is now. Right now, it's like, you get too much data. You get analysis by paralysis or paralysis by analysis, or I don't know, however you say that. And I would say, actually here, it's maybe a little white lie that they said, hey, we haven't seen any growth. We weren't actually measuring this. We had the data, but we weren't showing them these numbers because the data was there, but we weren't looking at it. And it wasn't until somewhere around here when we had that meeting with them and said, hey, do we even understand your business? We're doing this cool creative work. And that's when we started going back and saying, hey, how many leads have we generated? When they first hired us, one of their goals was they hadn't really done a lot in marketing, and they said, look, I was gonna hire a big salaried salesperson, big bonus commissions, instead of that, why don't I bring you guys on? It's gonna cost me about the same amount of money, and I think you guys can help me just as much as a sales rep. So they brought us on and were treating us like a sales rep. And so we would have these constant communications. And when we got here, I won't lie, they weren't happy. But when we were able to show them that cumulatively there was a 10-time ROI, and don't give up now, that's really how we're able to continue working. Hopefully that answered your question.
It was an amazing presentation. I was just wondering, who besides the CEO are you working with in these organizations? It sounds like you have a pretty, good understanding of these companies, and sometimes that kind of work doesn't even happen within a company. So it's kind of impressive that as an outside agency, you're able to do that. I'd just like to hear a little bit more about it.
Yeah, so that actually gets into, I've worked with all these really great companies, and sometimes it's project-based, and sometimes they don't have access to that, which is why I don't tell stories about how much I've helped them grow, because I just don't know. And so these are companies that the executive team, a lot of times for an early company like Joe Froyo, the investors will come in and bring us in, and they'll say, hey, I'm gonna dump a few $1 million into this. I need a team that's gonna help. That's happened a few times with clients. Working with the CEOs typically is where you'll have great access to that. The CMOs really having constant communication, and a lot of times it's not them giving us that information, it's us just figuring it out and saying, hey, this is what we're doing and this is why, and just coming with rationale for it ahead of time. And so the collaboration is really where that comes from. They don't give us a packet that says, this is our big vision. We try and create that packet when we start working with new clients, but you're right, it's really tough, and especially with a bigger organization, you're just not gonna have it. I mean, I've been working with Maglite for 10 years. We introduced them to consumer sales. They had never sold direct to consumer before working with us, and even to this day, I could tell you how much, well, I can't tell you how much they've sold online, but I know how much they've sold online. But I can't attribute that to the work I've done, because they've got all these moving pieces that I just don't have. I'm working in a very specific niche, so these are really clients that embraced us and said, I want you to be an extension of my team. I want to hire Echo Factory because you have 25 very smart problem solvers that work at your company, and I need your help. And that's really why we've been able to see this growth.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Fred.
Congratulations. It's
Thank
really
you.
a great presentation and wonderful work you've done. So tell us how you're applying these principles to grow your own firm.
That's a great question. Great question. The term that I heard when I started the business is the plumbing always leaks at the plumber's house. And actually, very recently, and through this group, I've met a number of people that I have a ton of respect for, and one of the things is I actually brought on an advisor to help me apply these principles and hold me accountable to follow the same pattern. For the last 10 years with the agency and the 5 years before that with the photography business, I was just out going, hey guys, you need some help? Yeah, what do you need? I'll help you. And it's slowly refined, but I think bringing on an advisor and really working with mentors, and so we're actively in the middle of doing this push. So while we've had steady growth over the years, we've grown from me to now 25 or 30 people at the agency. We're now trying to step it up a little bit and see some bigger growth. So that should be coming soon. And having an advisor helps a ton. So. Hello.
Hi. To use your name, I echo your the previous questioners. I think it was a great presentation. I'm curious, how and when do you work with early stage companies where capital is short and the future's ill-defined?
That's a really good question. When we moved the business to Pasadena, I got so excited about the startup world. I didn't really know anything about it. I was just working with these companies that would find me and like me and want to hire me in the company. And so we got really involved with startups, and I learned extremely quickly that startups don't have any money, and there's a long time before they have money. And so the way that we've worked with early stage companies is investors will bring us in, whether it's VC, private equity, and they'll say, hey, I believe in this company, I think they're great, can you meet with them? And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Startups are extremely tough, and the likelihood of success is really small. all the companies, with the exception of Joe Froyo, they were established companies. They had budgets, they had a reputation. And so startups it's a tough world, man. I do not envy founders, but there's a reason they do it, and there's a reason they survive after a few years and they see that success. So it's really difficult for an agency like us to work with really early stage startups because the budget's just not there. But when an investment round comes in, that's usually when we'll get involved.